But for example, I was an early investor in DocuSign, and DocuSign in the beginning, you're like, oh, it's pretty simple technology. You sign something on your phone. Adobe could write that, phone signing technology in like 5 seconds. Like, why is there a business here? Well, what DocuSign did, and when you have too much money, or when you have a huge burn rate, or you hire a bunch of people, I have no idea what all those people were doing at IRL when 98% of the accounts were bots. I don't know what those people were. They weren't, marketing and getting customer acquisitions, because there was all bots. They were all their own users. So, they literally wasted a giant pile of money. They wasted $200 million on a fraud.
Perfect. Hello, everyone. Well, I'm Bhavye. I'm with FlowGPT. We're like the GitHub for prompts. And we have with us Martin. So Martin, do you want to give us an introduction?
Hi, I'm Martin Tobias. I'm the managing director of Incisive Ventures. We're a small pre-seed venture capital firm in Seattle, and we invest in software companies that hopefully reduce friction at scale. I was an early investor in DocuSign, so I look for companies like that. We are doing a bunch of investing now in AI, like everybody else is, and we're really excited to talk to you.
Wonderful, wonderful. So you're running Incisive Ventures, and you guys are pre-seed, early stage, first check-in, I'm assuming.
First institutional check. Yeah. Many times the companies have raised a little bit of money from angels, $400,000 or $500,000 to build their MVP. And we like to come in after the MVP's been built and they have a little bit of customer traction, maybe a little bit of revenue, and they're really trying to get up to a couple $100,000 of revenue, where the larger seed funds, the $100 million funds, are going to be interested in writing a $2 to $4 million check.
Gotcha. Is there like a industry emphasis, or is this like agnostic?
No, I'm a software generalist, and my thesis is technology software companies that reduce friction at scale. And you see a lot of friction in a lot of different industries, mostly industries which are sort of laggard technology adopters, or industries that were early adopters in technology that have aging platforms, like airlines, construction, supply chain, healthcare, those kind of industries that are a little behind some of the modern things.
Gotcha. Well, that's wonderful. So there's definitely like a lot of interesting aspects that AI brings, which is removing friction in software, like in the industries as well. So I think it's going to be a pretty interesting conversation.
Yeah. We love what's happening with AI, and you've heard other people say it before, but it is a step function sort of infrastructure layer piece that is going to help a lot of applications just become an order of magnitude more efficient and easier to develop, similar to what happened with the cloud. It's cheaper than ever to start a company today because you don't have to set up a data center yourself. And AI is just going to provide a whole bunch of additional features like that. I differentiate between companies that are fundamentally AI companies building sort of the large language models and things like that, versus people that are implementing AI. And I think almost every software application will have AI inside, sort of like Intel inside, and may use AI to solve whatever business problem they're solving an order of magnitude faster and cheaper. And I'm already starting to see that, and I'm excited about the efficiencies in terms of developing applications faster, but then also solving business problems faster that AI is going to enable.
That's very interesting. So that's a lot of insights. So let me break it down. So you're saying that there's AI companies which are building LLMs. So OpenAI, probably pre-trained models like Cohere.
Sure.
And then there are companies which are implementing some sort of infrastructure play in AI. They're not building models, but they're like Flow, or like other companies who are like becoming like the AI infra.
Yeah.
And there's the AI component adding.
And then there's the application layer where you're implementing AI to solve a specific problem. Yeah. So there's 3 areas of investment, I think, in AI. One is the core AI models themselves, which I think that ends up being owned by the big companies. There's the infrastructure and connectivity layer, things like what you're doing, people that are making user interfaces to connect to multiple AI models, things that are doing connectivity to data sources for AI models, things like that. And then a lot of developer tools. And then there's the people that are using some sort of an AI technology in a bunch of other software to solve a particular business problem. For example, and I invest mostly in the application layer, because what I'm excited about AI, I don't call myself an AI investor, but I am a software investor. And if AI can help you deliver your software value better, an order of magnitude faster, then I think every software company is going to have to implement AI. I invested in a company called Aristotle HQ, which is in cold outbound email, go-to-market communications for sales teams. And they're using a combination of scraping and research with an ML program, as well as generative AI, to make more targeted, personalized outbound email campaigns at scale. And, they're using AI, but what they're doing is, doing something that a salesperson would do manually, going to the LinkedIn page, looking up what somebody's about, where they went to school, where they work, and then writing a personalized email based on that person's LinkedIn page. That can be done now with AI an order of magnitude faster than a salesperson could have done it without AI. I don't call it an AI company, that's an application company, but they're using the AI tools to do that particular business process, 10 times faster than it could be done without.
That's very interesting. So you're looking at it not like, oh, we're like an AI company automating emails. We're an email company, but we're using AI to solve that user problem.
Yeah, exactly. And, people have tried to solve that problem before, with search scrapers and, Zapier and some other automation scripts and stuff like that. And, they've done an okay job, but, the AI models are allowing you to solve that problem now an order of magnitude faster, more accurately, and better. It's just a new tool to do what you really want to do, which is get people to answer your emails.
Yeah. Just, yeah. So it's like a plus AI business.
Yeah, it's AI inside. I think everybody has to have AI inside in almost every kind of application these days. I mean, it doesn't solve certain applications, a lot of physical world type things. But where anytime you're having to make sense of a lot of information, and there are many business problems like that, AI is a great accelerant for that.
So that brings me on to the next interesting thing, which is how do you think about moats and like differentiation? If AI is going to be like, let's say like Intel that did for chips, like AI is going to be like a component of every software. How do I differentiate? Like, because every business is going to implement the same stuff.
Well, what you've got to do, there's really two ways to differentiate an AI application. One is to have some sort of unique training data that customizes the model over the standard model. For example, I invested in this company that's doing legal tech. They're doing drafting of contracts. And if you just ask ChatGPT to draft a contract, you're going to get pretty basic standard lawyer language. What this company does is allows a law firm to upload precedent documents, which probably has a lot of style and wording that lawyer likes to use. And then it writes the documents using that particular lawyer's voice. And each lawyer is going to have a different voice because they have different training sets. So they've tuned the model specifically to that user, on top of what ChatGPT-4 would do. So that's a way to create a data moat, because ChatGPT-4 will unlikely be able to draft something like DLA or Wilson Sonsini or something like that, because they just have sort of the generic thing. So that's one way to do it, is to have a proprietary data set that gives that last 10 or 15% of customization to a model. The second way to do it is to have some level of integration into workflow that goes pretty deeply that other people won't do. I haven't seen that necessarily in AI yet, but for example, I was an early investor in DocuSign. And DocuSign, in the beginning, you're like, oh, it's pretty simple technology. You sign something on your phone. Adobe could write that, phone signing technology in like 5 seconds. Like, why is there a business here? Well, what DocuSign did is they built a bunch of integrations and workflows. They built the signing order, sending emails to people. They integrated the signature into document management systems like real estate transaction systems, like other kinds of contract management systems. And all of that integration to those specific vertical industries were something that Adobe would never do. And because they created enough integrations and workflow around the core technology, they were able to solve specific business problems, like how to sign a real estate contract in a way that a general purpose company would not be able to do. And it's exactly the same way, in the cloud. It's like, why does Snowflake have a business? They're built on top of Adobe or on top of Amazon. Why does Databricks have a business, right? They've written, a bunch of application layer things which add value to the core storage for a specific vertical or a specific use case that the core basic storage providers either cannot or have not or will not do.
I mean, it also makes sense because giving the same analogy as like AWS, for them probably just does not make sense to get into every single vertical.
It doesn't. I mean, they're providing a horizontal service, right? Yeah. The LLMs are a horizontal service, not a vertical service.
So you think it's going to be more like, okay, someone has built like a model, and now as a company, either I'm just going to fine tune it with the prompting, or like actually go and fine tune that model and then add it to my service, than like me sort of like just going to ChatGPT and using that.
I don't know. I mean, the reality is, staying ahead on that application layer is going to be hard because, ChatGPT 5 is coming and ChatGPT 4 is, 15% better than ChatGPT 3.5. So the core underlying models are going to get better and better. But what you need to do is you need to find a specific use case you know, a specific vertical that, you know, is big enough to create a market for you, but not so big that, you know, ChatGPT will optimize their model for that. And there'll be a lot of those. You know, I mean, ChatGPT is, you know, building the model to do things like pass the LSAT. They're not writing it to, you know, code a stock purchase agreement like Cooley.
Okay. And that's like that data that Cooley has to like fine tune an existing model is just like very valuable, like that private data.
It is, yeah, yeah. And, you know, I mean, I think that there will also be, you know, companies that create models that are vertical specific. You know, I've already seen people, you know, doing things like healthcare models that have medical records in them and studies and, you know, have, you know, I mean, can ChatGPT have all the medical data in it always? Probably not. You know, I mean, could they have 70%? Yeah, but you know, they don't have what Providence Healthcare has or Blue Shield or something like that. Yeah. So I think there's also an interesting opportunity on the LLM side for training models that are, you know, specific to certain knowledge sets.
Do you think, but what do you think about plugins? So I was actually listening to a podcast, Shamat, All in One, and they were talking about Expedia, like other companies, like these multi-billion-dollar companies that are now connecting to ChatGPT. And one side of the argument is, well, ChatGPT is going to take their business eventually, but they're not going to let that happen. Like there has to be some way for them to stop that on the data that they have.
Well, I think what, you know, ChatGPT and Google and all these guys have done, well, certainly ChatGPT with plugins. I mean, the large language models are really good at making sense of lots of information. They're not good at making transactions or having, you know, inventory databases. I think it would be very hard, even, you know, Google now, I mean, they get paid by, you know, Expedia for getting a click to Expedia to do the transaction. They don't do the transaction. And you know, they've been around for a long time. They've been trying to get in the transaction business, and the best they have been able to do is pay per click. And it's basically because to maintain that database and the connectivity to all the hotels and all the airlines and everything, it's very hard. And you know, you can't do it without somebody like Expedia. So I definitely see more integration happening. I think it would be hard for the AI companies to disintermediate and do transactions directly versus these companies like Expedia or OpenTable or these other people that already have, you know, all of those providers in a database and APIs and the transaction engine and the payment engine. I mean, that's very, very different software to write than, you know, making sense of search data.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I believe Expedia also outsources that connectivity part to some other company. But if you look at it, that other company, I'm forgetting the name, is worth way less than what Expedia is worth. Because it's not just about the connectivity, it's also about like the experience that they bring to the user.
Yeah, the user interface, the experience, the rewards, you know, yeah. I mean, Expedia had to write, you know, a lot of software to keep customers happy in their rewards program and stuff like that. Yeah.
That's interesting. So let's say eventually there are multiple models for specific things, or there might be multiple fine-tuned stuff that you're using for very specific use cases.
Yep.
How do you think, okay, the way you interact with any model is prompting. So how do you think, like,
Today,
what do you think prompts will play?
You know, I don't know. I think the whole area of prompts is super interesting because you know, it's garbage in, garbage out, right? Like bad prompts gives bad results, and prompting is not something that people are natural at. And you know, Google in search, you know, wrote a lot of code and spent a lot of time, you know, trying to figure out what people were really searching for and giving them the right kind of results. And you know, AI does a decent job of that, but you know, I think what you're doing at FlowGPT could be interesting. I've seen a couple other plugins that are doing templates, saving templates of prompts, and you know, are helping people with do prompt engineering and stuff like that. I think that there will be some interesting opportunities to make prompts better in a bunch of different ways, because that's going to improve the search and the results. You know, I see Twitter threads on that all the time, right? I mean, some of the most popular Twitter threads are, you know, here's how you make ChatGPT create a video for you.
Yeah.
Here's the 3-step process. And, you know, if you just are sitting there staring at the prompt in ChatGPT, you wouldn't know the 3 or 4-step process to do, right?
Yeah. So I think, there's like hyper specialization that's going to come in, and probably prompts are going to become like an interesting thing to think about eventually as well.
Prompts are going to get really interesting. And, you know, I think it's, you know, I don't know what the user interface is going to be, but I could see it being, you know, something similar, you know, to what Google's done in search. You start to type, you know, a search term in the box there, and it will give you 5, you know, things that other people have searched for, trying to guess what you're really searching for. And I can see something similar in prompts, but in order to do that, you have to have a database of millions of prompts
Yeah.
you know.
It's just like kind of like a moat that the LM companies have, like ChatGPT probably has that. They have like
Sure.
millions of prompts with them. Yeah, that's very interesting. So how are you using ChatGPT right now?
I must admit, I'm not using it that much. I mean, frankly, as a pre-seed investor, it stops in 2021. It doesn't have a lot of real-time data in it, so it's not very good for diligence and helping me find, small companies that don't have a lot of traffic or anything like that. It gives fairly generic information. I used it, to try to prompt for some tweet threads or this and that, but it gives fairly bad results. So I'm not using it that much. There are a couple of models which I am using, which are looking at more relevant startup or venture related databases. For example, I use Perplexity AI
Yeah.
in diligence, and you put in a startup name there, like tell me the top 3 competitors of this company. It gives you a pretty good list, and it looks up, traction, product hunt, some databases that are not trained today in ChatGPT.
And I think what Perplexity started was like change the way you search.
Yeah.
So they're trying to analyze websites and give you like a block instead of like you having to click on everything. Like I think it's time that the market that Google had dominated, of like you type something and like 10 blue links like pop
Yeah.
up and click on something.
No, I mean, yeah, Google's model, has come to an end. I mean, in the beginning, I remember, I'm old enough that I remember when Google launched, and, I was using Alta Vista and Yahoo at the time. And, the minute you did a search on Google, the first search, like the results were way more relevant than Yahoo or Alta Vista. And you switched immediately because you just found much more relevant stuff. They also had no ads and no sponsored anything. The problem today, 20 years later, is that almost every result is some sort of search thing or SEO optimized thing trying to get you to sell something. So if you just are asking a question, trying to get information, you get bombarded with people that are trying to sell you things which are similar to your information, but are not in fact the answer for the question that you have.
Yeah.
Right. So it's been optimized for transactions and commerce, because that's how they get paid, is through clicks. And it's really not as useful as an information retrieval or research tool anymore, because it's all about ads. And I think people that go back to the basics and help people, find information through, the summarization of websites and semantic search and things like that are going to find a lot of traction and a lot of people wanting to do it. Then the other question is, how do they monetize that? Are you paying a monthly fee for that or whatever? But they'll figure that out too. I mean, I think Corey Doctorow wrote an interesting post a couple weeks ago called "The Inshitification of Platforms," and he laid out, how all the big platforms, Facebook, Google, Twitter, in the beginning started off providing amazing value. Facebook in the beginning had no ads. Your feed was all of your friends' stuff. But over time, as they're pressed to monetize that feed more, they had to stuff more ads in. My Twitter feed right now, like I have 18,000 followers on Twitter. I get like 1,000 views on a tweet. Why don't I get 18,000? It's because 17,000 of my followers don't see those tweets, right? Because they're being showed sponsored tweets instead, because Twitter has to make money.
Yeah.
And so basically every platform goes through this evolution. In the beginning, it can be incredibly valuable to users and they're really trying to make users happy. But then as monetization comes along, certainly in the ad model and click and attention model, the useful information gets pushed aside for the monetization.
But isn't that like a cycle? Like you start with something disruptive and then boom, 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 traction. And then you realize, oh, we need to make money. And then sort of like all of this heavyweight comes on and then goes down. You think?
Well, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's been historically the path every platform has, certainly when it has to be supported by the ad model.
Yeah.
The free model has to be supported by some indirect monetization model. I actually am an investor in a new social media company, which is going to be ad free and ask people to pay and basically monetize it through paid subscriptions from the users. It's a super audacious idea, but the idea is that your feed would be 100% of your actual friends. Okay. No ads, no sponsored posts, no trigger warnings, no, clickbait from publishers trying to steal your attention, your actual friends. Would I pay for something like that? Yeah, I'd probably pay something.
Something is sort of like up in the air.
Well, that's the question. How much? Would I pay, $1,000 a month? No. Would I pay $10 a month? Probably.
I think Twitter came out with something like this, like Musk's tweets are, you have to like buy access to that or something like that.
Yeah, they came out with that. I think that's the wrong direction. But anyway, they're still working out the monetization, but I think I know personally, I am frustrated enough with I'm the product ad model that I will pay for features. For example, I pay for Superhuman
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
email.
Yeah.
It has a whole bunch of features, and I know that they're not, targeting me with ads like Gmail.
So is that like more than anything else? Is that like the driving motivation that I'm not going to be bombarded with ads at least?
I don't want to be bombarded. I want to get my work done, and I want to get the information, quicker that I actually want. I don't want to be distracted or diverted with, ads or clicks or, somebody else's business model. If I'm using a tool for something, I want to use it for that thing, and I'm happy to pay for that, for that privilege. It's the same reason why, I still, I'm paying full price for Netflix and I'm not using the ad-supported Netflix. I mean, some people will go for that ad-supported model, but I think there are enough people that are tired of being the product that you'll start to see companies, offering similar sets of software features, without ads in a paid model. And I think that's super interesting.
I mean, YouTube does it to a great extent. Like they'll just, especially now with YouTube, you'll see so many ads that you'll be like, I'm just gonna buy this.
I gotta go red. Yeah,
Yeah,
I gotta pay because this is bullshit.
Yeah, yeah. But I think that's a very interesting way of like getting real users who can afford to pay and care about this enough to like actually pay and get
I think we're moving into a time where that paid model is gonna, be more possible. And it's certainly, a different model, and it's for a different demographic, but I think that demographic is large enough that that you'll see some interesting companies there.
But when you think about mass things, like let's say Perplexity or like, stuff like that, where like a lot of people are like, we pay for it and we might pay for like a premium thing, but the company also wants to make money with the rest of the people. If they're not showing ads, then they're probably selling the data. And that's like, people are like really like cautious about that, don't sell my data.
Well, I mean, if people are expecting a free service, they got to know that company's got to monetize it somehow. And, personally, I would rather pay than have the company monetize my data personally.
Interesting.
And I think there's a lot of people like me.
I totally agree. Totally agree. So, I mean, you think that the companies should sort of like, this should be a question to the
I think the companies should provide that as an option, just like Netflix, right? I mean, you can pay full price for Netflix, or like Amazon. Amazon has, Amazon Prime, and Amazon, but you can also watch some of their videos now with ads.
Yeah.
And I think companies are going to, maybe need to have, or I think companies would do well if they had multiple ways to access their service. For example, I think something Elon should do on Twitter, like I pay for my little blue check mark, but I don't really know what the fuck I'm getting for that. If I could pay even a little bit more, say $15 a month and get no ads, I would pay that all day long.
Interesting.
And get more of my friends' feeds instead of sponsored feeds. I would do that all day long.
And especially for creators who have like large followings, if there can be more tooling to like put their content to their actual followers instead of like showing ads.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, there are more premium models on Twitter than he has launched so far.
I mean, more possibilities of like what
more possibilities. Yeah.
That's very interesting. You think like just like on Twitter, like when Musk took over, everyone was like, oh, it's going down. You think that's the case, or like you think it's still gonna be?
I think it's better than it was before. And I think it's amazing, that he proved, it's not without its issues, but he proved most tech companies can fire 80% of their people and still run a reasonable company. I mean,
people overhire nowadays.
Oh, well, I don't think as much anymore, but certainly they were, drunk at the bar. Drunk at the bar.
What do you suggest your founders when they're like, they got the check-in, now they're like, okay, we want to expand? How do you think about that?
Well, I mean, whenever I fund a company, we're usually funding a specific set of KPIs and a specific work plan, and I expect them to execute that work plan that we agreed to when we wrote the check. And I don't approve, work plans that include, a bunch of Herman Miller chairs and, flights to cons and stuff like that. I mean, it's all stuff that needs to be done. I am, excited to be back in a time where we're building companies like we used to sort of 10 years ago, which is where CEOs were very, very conscious of costs. When money was free up until, the middle of last year, CEOs didn't have to be as conscious about cost. And I think it caused a lot of bad behavior. And, it even caused some incredibly fraudulent behavior. I don't know if you saw recently what happened with IRL.
I know what happened with IRL.
There was a company called IRL, which was a sort of a social media company trying to help people meet up in real time in IRL, in real life. They claimed to have 20 million users. They had raised $200 million on the back of crazy daily user numbers and all that stuff. It just came out last week that 98% of the accounts were bots.
Wow.
They basically lied.
And the VCs had no due diligence to like making sure.
Well, I mean, the VCs were lied to. It's pretty hard without doing an audit, to verify that. And I think, Elon Musk found the same thing when he got into Twitter.
Yeah.
Twitter was reporting, a whole bunch of users and stuff like that. He says, I think there's bots. And, unfortunately, in the public markets and for IRL, their valuation, their ability to raise money was based all on their user statistics. So there's an incredible incentive to cheat on user statistics. And, that has happened, and you're going to see some CEOs take the easy way out, and that's unfortunate. You're going to see more of that sort of thing happening. And when you have too much money, or when you have a huge burn rate, or you hire a bunch of people, I have no idea what all those people were doing at IRL when 98% of the accounts were bots. I don't know what those people were. They weren't, marketing and getting customer acquisitions, because it was all bots. They were all their own users. So, they literally wasted a giant pile of money. They wasted $200 million on a fraud.
Wow. But like, if a CEO is even like considering doing that, what do they even see? Like, what's going to happen at the end? Like,
I don't know. I've invested in a lot of companies, and I've had a small handful, like 2 or 3, whose CEOs did stuff bullshit like that. And, I got to believe that they thought they were going to, fake it till you make it, and somehow make it through, and, cover it up with real growth. I can't believe any of them thought that they were actually going to create, a business on lies, a real business. I think some of them, thought it was a short-term thing, and then, it turned out to be bigger. I can't believe people, believe they can get away with that in the long term. Nobody can.
I mean, it's like growth hacking, but then it's like all unethical and just like wrong.
Well, yeah. I mean, fake users is fraud.
Yeah.
I mean, look at Elizabeth Holmes with Theranos, right? I mean, she tricked some very smart people into giving her hundreds of millions of dollars by completely lying about her product.
Yeah.
Repeatedly, time and time again.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, she probably thought she was faking it till you make it, and she was being told by her engineers that eventually the thing would work, and it would all be fine. And that party stopped, and there weren't enough chairs left. I don't think most CEOs who try that tact are really trying to perpetuate a fraud. I think they're just trying to make it
kind of thing. Yeah. I mean, I'm sure there are a lot of companies that do it and sort of get through that phase and like actually see the growth.
Yeah,
Sure.
possibly.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't say what goes through their mind. That has never gone through my mind when I was CEO of a company, never. But I could see, I've seen it enough that, it's something that happens.
That's very interesting. What are some other things when you're like looking at, let's say, a founder, especially at your stages? There's no business. There's an idea of a business.
Pre-seed, there's very little business. Yeah.
So you're probably looking at the team. What are some red flags and green flags you're looking at?
I'm actually working on a post of everything that I've ever screwed up in diligence for pre-seed, and I'll have it on Twitter hopefully within a week. But red flags are CEOs, because basically in pre-seed you've got the founding team, 1, 2, maybe 3 people, and then you've got some initial MVP, and you've got a go-to-market strategy, or how to get your first 100 customers. And what you're diligencing is, do you believe that that team understands the market enough and can build enough of a product to get that first 100 customers? And is their go-to-market wedge or plan reasonable? They probably haven't executed it that much, but you're basically betting that they can execute and get the first couple of customers and get to a couple $100,000 in revenue. So you're really diligencing the team, the plan, and the team's ability to execute that plan. So some of the red flags would be, you need to focus on what's going to happen in the next 6 to 12 months. A red flag for me is in a pre-seed call where the CEO is talking about what he's going to do in 5 years, or talking about the exit of the company. Like, you have no fucking business yet, and you're telling me that this thing's going to be worth $1 billion in 5 years. Like, what are you smoking? I don't care about that. I care about what you're going to do in the next 6 months.
But isn't it like the vision? Like, everyone's looking for the visionary who has like the big grand Steve Jobs vision.
Not everybody has a grand Steve Jobs type vision, but frankly, the only thing I care about in pre-seed is, can you execute for the next 12 months? Because that's the only thing I'm giving you money to do. I'm not giving you money for 5 years. I really don't want to. I mean, maybe we spend 2 minutes on that, and I have to believe that your vision could potentially get big, but the most important thing is, what are you going to do with the money I give you? What are you going to achieve? And do I believe that you have a reasonable chance to achieve what I'm going to give you? So, and red flags are people that don't think in the right timeline. Another red flag is companies that don't raise enough money to achieve goals. Pre-seed founders that are saying, we're raising $1.5 million, but we are raising it $100,000 a month, and we've already been at it for 7 months, and we have 2 months of cash in the bank. That's not $1.5 million round. That's a hand to mouth, like barely living round. I also don't look for, it's a red flag when CEOs don't understand their metrics. I talked to a company that said, they have $400,000 of ARR. And I looked into the financials and they were charging a setup fee and a recurring monthly SaaS fee. And they were counting their setup fees as ARR. And I said, dude, that's not ARR.
Yeah.
Setup fees are separate. And he's like, oh, whoops. In this case, I gave him a break because I think he was just a first-time founder. But founders who don't know the details of their business and misrepresent their business either intentionally or unintentionally, this is a flag.
I mean, because you can never tell if it's intentional or unintentional.
Well, intentional is a fraud.
Right. And even unintentional, like there's not
unintentional can be inexperience, especially in pre-seed for first-time founders. And then I have to make a decision: do I believe it's intentional or unintentional?
Interesting. And what are some green flags?
Green flags are, second-time founders, people that have that understand the challenge that they're getting into. Green flags are, a business and a technical co-founder together that are both credible in the industry that you're building in. A green flag is a CEO's ability to attract a team. And hopefully they have done that in the past. Like, when I went to Google, I hired 15 people and I took them from these amazing companies and they'll probably follow me. Proven ability to attract a team. That's another green flag. The number one for me though is that the CEO, just basically is obsessed with whatever the problem it is that they're solving, that they're just obsessed and they can't sleep unless they solve this problem. That you got to have that extra amount of passion and commitment because it's going to be hard.
It's almost like desperation that, like this team is going to get it done, like whether they take the check from me or not. So I might as well just give it to them. That's very interesting.
A red flag is, and I love CEOs that are solving personal problems. It's like, I was working at Google and I had this problem and I wrote this product to solve my problem and lots of other companies have it and that's why I'm doing it. I hate CEOs that are like, I quit my job. I, started reading some magazines. I found this Gartner report that says AI is going to be big. So I'm starting an AI company.
Wow.
Right. This is not the level of passion and commitment and personal stake in solving the problem that you want from a CEO.
Or you need like more research into like what, why, like how does it make sense?
Well, exactly. Like I have not found good success with CEOs who did a whole bunch of market research and picked a market category because they believed the economics of that category were good. I have found much better success from CEOs that were working in an industry or had a particular problem and wrote some shit for themselves or went looking for a solution for the problem, tried all the other solutions and said, I can do better.
Interesting.
Right? That's a much better CEO motive than, I was in MBA school at Harvard and we did a case study on, the supply chain. And I read this Gartner report. And so I started the company.
I totally agree. I think I just did a podcast with Reed, who is the founder of this company called Stitch. Became a unicorn in like 2 years, and they do like user authentication. And he was like, I was at Plaid, I was a PM at Plaid, and this was the problem we were facing. I talked to every single company out there, and I was like, there's no solution for it. And then I was like, I should build a company.
That is a great reason to start a company.
Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Yeah, no, I totally agree. Totally agree. It's starting a company is kind of like it's a little personal in the way that like, why are you going to be on this for the next like 5 to 10 years?
It has to be personal. It has to be much more personal than opportunistic. The problem with the Gartner thing is, somebody says, I'm doing it because Gartner report. And then 6 months from now, Gartner comes out with a new report and changes it and says, that's not the hot thing anymore. This other thing is, then that guy's going to be like, oh, well, I gotta go do that other thing. Like there's no stick to itness.
It's like people like we're doing creator economy, then AI, and then Web3 and crypto, and then AI again.
Yeah, these people that just hop from hot topic to hot topic also tend to not do well because they don't have a personal stake in the problem area that they're working in.
Very interesting. But yeah, I think a lot of amazing insights in the conversation. Anything else? Any final thoughts you want to add on?
No, thanks for this. I appreciate it. And I'll talk to everybody on Twitter. Follow me at Martin G. Tobias or read my blog over at Incisive VC. Being a founder is hard. Finding the right partner to help you grow your business is hard. But there are resources out there and there are VCs that talk about what they like and find the ones that are looking at problems that are similar to one you're solving. And you will find a great partner to help grow your business.
Yeah, and if someone has something great they're working on, they should probably reach out.
Yeah, reach out. My how to submit with me is in my Twitter blog. There's a link. You can just fill out the form, and I read all of them, and I will answer everybody.
Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Well, lovely talking to you, Morten. Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot.